Well, let's talk, Joanne, about how you transferred from England, made your way to the USA. Because I know you had a pit stop in Australia.
I did. So I'm in England.
And how old were you when you decided to move on to
26? I think it was 25. So 25. Yes, I must have been 24 when I got my pro card, because I was just waiting until I got my pro card, and thankfully I got it. So I got my pro card. I had a really good job. I went to university, did an honors degree. I got this great job, all the perks of this great job. And then I was, well, if I'm honest, I'm with this boyfriend that I don't want to be with. And I'm like, it seems stupid. I'm like, where is the farthest part of the planet I can go to get away from this guy? Right? Where's the farthest from England? So if you actually get a globe, which I did, and you find the farthest part from England, it is Australia. So I booked an airline ticket to Australia. It worked. I got rid of him.
You couldn't just break up with him?
Oh, it was one of those.
Okay.
Back forth. Stop it, Joanne. Just stop it, right?
Oh, okay.
So I had to have a little talk to myself. And so in Australia, you could get a working visa up to the age of 26, and I was 25. So I was like, okay, let me apply now. And I got a working visa in Australia. So I went down there. So I didn't compete that year because I just got the pro card and whatever. Made some money doing guest posing to pay for the trip. And so I went to Australia and lived there. I lived in Surfers Paradise for a year. Just working in nightclubs and waitressing and just doing the stuff, just having and then on the way back, so I had all the paperwork to emigrate to Australia. They have a point system. So I had an honors degree. I'd worked in my industry. I was under 30 years old. I had maximum point. I could move to Australia. So I have the paperwork. But the attorney says, don't apply in Australia, go back to England, apply there. It looks a bit weird if you apply in the country, go home. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm applying back. So it's November. Oh my gosh. It's November and I'm flying back to England, and that's too far because it's halfway around the world. And you have to do it. Now I think there's a one flight, but back then you had to stop somewhere. So I stopped in LA. I stopped in Los Angeles on the way back, and it was November. And I had a few cocktails on the flight, and it was November. So I'm leaving summer in Australia. I'm going back to winter in England, and I gave up my job, gave up my house, gave up my car, and the boyfriend's still there, right? And I'm like, hell to the no. So I got off the plane. I didn't get back on the second leg. That's how I ended up in LA, with a bag on my back,
Oh my God.
I'm just full of smarts, right? Full of smarts. So yeah, but then this is where the camaraderie comes in, right? So I was like, well, I know Gold's Gym is here, so I'm gonna know. And I think I knew Sam Ibenut. I knew him and I knew Tom Platz.
Oh, he's a friend of mine. He's a nice guy.
He is one of the reasons I'm actually stayed in America, because so I'd met him in England because of the judge, the guy that owns the gym, and so I knew Tom Platz because Tom Platz was very good friends with Bill Boyd, the judge. So I had these names that I knew, right? But I didn't know anybody. But it's still, you kind of, even though, and there's no cell phone to text anybody. There's no Google to look up a hotel. You just get off the plane and you're like, okay, all right.
You didn't even have a Thomas guide.
I'd ripped out pages from the yellow pages. I had these pieces of yellow, literally I'd ripped out pages from the yellow pages. These numbers.
Like, what did you do without a phone, a Facebook, and Instagram? What are you supposed to do?
I know, right? Now, there's a story about my first time in America, but I don't know if you want me to go into that because that's kind of crazy. But I went to go.
I'm on this journey right now.
Okay,
You're
so
taking me on.
I'll keep it really quick, right? So I get off the plane. Remember, I've had a few cocktails, so I'm just like, I'm not getting back on that second. Okay. So I have this address of this hostel, and I'm like, I'm going to go there. Right? So I get in the cab and I tell him where I need to go. And it's late, I remember that. And he drops me, Monica, get this, and you'll know this one if you know the area. He drops me off on Lincoln and Rose, where it used to be that Big Lots and the CVS.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the dodgiest corner in Venice, probably, right? Right in the hood. And he opened the door, and I get out with my bag on my back, and I'm like, I don't see a hostel, I don't see a hotel. And I'm like, where? And I think he just didn't understand my accent or something. And he closed the door and he drives. Remember that big parking lot, Monica? And you know that big parking lot that's now Whole Foods? So
Yes.
I'm there. It's dark. And then these guys standing against the wall, maybe 4 guys. Now, I've been in England. I know a drug dealer when I see him, right? I know what they're doing, right? And I'm like, ooh, okay, this isn't good.
Yeah, you're about to witness a drug deal.
I'm like,
Great.
so a guy comes up to me and I have the number of this hotel and it's an 800 number. Well, I don't realize because, I didn't realize 1-800 meant it was free, right? I thought that was a phone number and I don't have any change because it's the quarters thing, right?
Yeah.
It's the quarter machine, no cell phone. And I'm like, how on earth am I gonna, and this guy comes up and he says, can I help you? I said, I've got to call this number, but I haven't got any change. And I'm like, oh, let me help you. And he dials, right? And they give him the address. He dials, but he knows it's a free number. I didn't know it was a free number. I thought he had change or something. So I talk to these people. I write down this address, like, oh, I'm in the wrong place. And he's like, I said, thank you so much. He said, you happy? I said, pretty happy. He said, you want to make me happy?
Oh, no.
I've been in the country like an hour. I'm like, ooh.
No.
At that moment, this other cab comes up. You don't hail a cab in LA, right? You don't hail a cab.
No.
This other cab comes up that big parking lot, right? Pulls up. It's like a movie. The door opens and he says, get in. And I'm looking at this guy that I'm meant to make him happy. And I'm looking at the cab. And I said, oh, well, I'm trying to get to this address. He said, just get in, get in. So I get in. He drives me, takes me to the hostel, right? And I said, okay, well, what do I owe you? Because I have dollars and stuff, but I don't have. And he said, you don't owe me anything. Just never do that again.
Oh my gosh. And now you're here sitting with us.
Wow.
Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be.
Isn't that crazy?
Were you in your spandex?
Oh my God, Joanne.
I had a bag on my back with everything that I owned.
Oh my God.
You were
And I
probably.
had a credit card that didn't even work in America, and I had some money in my pocket. And I'm like,
Gosh.
Oh my God, that's
my mother
scary.
doesn't know that story, so don't.
Well, don't tell her to watch the show.
So then I'm in Gold's Gym because it's right there, and I'm training Gold's, and I have every intention of going back to England, thinking I'll just chill here for a bit, And then I don't particularly like it. I love Gold's, but LA was very different,
Yeah.
And then somebody said, oh, because you're a professional athlete, you can get your green card in America. I'm like, so in my head, I'm like, ooh, I could get my green card here. Then I've got my immigration. I can still go back and do the Australia. Maybe I'll get 3 passports. I've got this wild idea in my head. So I'm like, okay. So I meet this attorney who, he did so many people, so many of the bodybuilders he did. And so I was like, okay, I'll get my green card. So, but that was my plan, stay until I got my green card. Well, it took 7 years. So by the time I got my green card, I was over 30, couldn't go to Australia. I kind of had started building my business. So that's my story. Yeah.
Wow. That's my story.
And that's my story.
That is.
Kids, never do that. Never do that. Never just turn up in LA with never do that. No.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a pretty crazy story. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
When you got there, Joanne, were they doing the free memberships for the pro bodybuilders?
I have never had a membership at Gold's Gym Venice, and I was a trainer there for 25 years. I've never had a membership there. No, Ed Connors comped me the day I arrived, and even when it changed hands and stuff, they were always that gym's been absolutely phenomenal to me. They're always incredibly welcoming every time I go back. It's truly like a family there. So they've been. I hear people badmouthing it. It's absolutely awesome. Absolutely
we were talking about this, Monica, how, as trainers, you can go in and train your clients at Gold's. See, I would think for me, getting started with strength training, if I were, a young woman getting started, which I'm not, I would be motivated to see you two training clients in there. So there's like a value add to the gym to have you guys there training, as far like from my perspective, you know. So I feel like maybe not so much now because it's so widely accepted, but at the time, I mean, having two beautiful women training people, that's like a value add to the gym, you know.
You know, back there though, Wendy, I mean, Monica knows, it was like Ed Connors and Tim Kimber and stuff. They just really wanted to support you. They really did. It was just this camaraderie that I had in
owners. So
they just really wanted to support you. They would, you know.
They were all about it, yeah. And that was so the three owners of Gold's Gym, the original.
I would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, their attitude kind of trickled down through the staff, you know, and you go in there, and it wasn't just the movie stars, celebrities that were treated, you know, really well. It was all of us bodybuilding community, you know, bodybuilding fitness community. And so, who were we talking to recently, Wendy? That we were discussing that. And Joanne, you probably remember this because when I came to LA in the very beginning, and I started dating the manager, I remember like the second year being in LA, I wasn't training people out of Gold's, but I remember all the trainers having to start paying. Like, was it 200?
Chris Cook.
Yeah, Chris Cook. It was like $260 a month or something like that.
I think the first rent I paid there was $220 because before that they didn't even have a gate. You just walked in the gym. I mean, members, we would like you to check in, but it's just wide open.
Like, what's the I bet there are people training there who didn't even have a membership.
I don't know how they did
for sure.
What was the guy's name? He was an older fellow that worked, and he actually did work at the front. Pardon?
Kurt. You're thinking of
well, the older man that knew everyone's number when they did get the number system.
Kurt Clean, right?
What was it?
Kurt Clean, wasn't it? Kurt Clean.
It sounds familiar. He had a big picture in the wall.
Yes.
He was like an old school
right? His computer was in his mind. He just was like,
he knew everybody's number. That's all he did. Like, that was his claim.
Every gym manager's dream come true.
Oh my God. He was just an older guy, kind of had long, shaggy kind of hair. He was friendly to everyone. He had one picture when he competed it back in the day on the Gold's Gym. It's probably still up there as far as I know.
I think it is. I was just there. Probably is.
Yeah, I had one of the big pictures next to the, you know, IFBB bodybuilders. And he was so nice. Was it Kent?
Kent Hume. Kent. Sorry, I'm thinking.
He was like, "Hey, Kent." He's like, "Hey, Monica," and then even if he knew your name, he'd still say your number.
1, 2, 7, 5, 9, 2, 8. Yeah.
It was great.
And then the gym changed hands, and I think I don't know that they let him go. I think he maybe encouraged them to let him go.
He was.
I think he didn't show up for work or something like that.
He was older, and once it started changing,
Kent, of course,
corporate. Yeah, it was.
Well, you know, back there weren't as many gyms either. You know, I mean, I would say that the big boom in gym growth probably was in the early 2000s. You know, now there's a gym on every corner.
Right.
I mean, there's so many gyms. It's hard to find that camaraderie kind of a vibe, which I love that. When you find a gym and you love the vibe and you see familiar faces, there's nothing better than that. You know, everyone's on their own thing.
Especially when you come from somewhere else. So when Monica lived there, you know, she wasn't from California. I came from England. So your friends become your family.
Yeah.
You know, so you end up spending Thanksgiving with people and, you know, Christmas with people. And so that's what it was. Like all those people in the gym, a lot of them became just family to me. You know, that's how I think of Monica. You just become your chosen family because you're not near your own family at all.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go back to your competing, Joanne. So you're in the States now, and what was your first competition once you were in the States? Do you remember?
Yeah, so I got there in the November. It was like 2 days before Thanksgiving. I didn't even know what Thanksgiving was because we don't have that in England. I'm like, why is everything closed on a Thursday? I'm like, this is random. Why is everything closed on a Thursday? Oh, that's whatever. And then it all opened on a Friday. I was like, what was that?
Like turkey, stuffing, gravy. What is going on?
Then a couple of months later, there's the Northridge earthquake and everything fell down. And that's when I'm thinking, this country might not be for me. Like, this is kind of, I was like, no, this doesn't happen very often. You know, I'm like, Yeah, because my building just fell down. And that was
My building might have just fallen down, but I'm not going back to my boyfriend.
yeah. That's
And
yeah.
Joanne, what year was this?
That was 94, the earthquake.
Okay, so
I've been
94.
here a couple of years, and I'm still living in a hostel. Actually, I was living in a
Oh,
hostel in Santa Monica on 2nd Street. I'd only been there like 2 months, and then so my first competition was I think it was early '95, and it was in Canada. Yeah, I think I went up to the Canadian Cup or something like that in Toronto, I think it was. And then I did the Arnold Classic a bunch of times, Miss International a bunch of times, Olympia a couple of times. But and then, like I say, you know, being an amateur was really fun, and professional was really fun. But once I hit the Olympia a couple of times, I kind of hit my goal.
Yeah,
you know, I was like, I'm good. You know,
what's your favorite Olympia memory?
The
Eating
95 one was really
eating
good.
white chocolates on the flight home with Mo.
I think I was.
That sounds really
was
good. Actually.
95. We were both in the same Olympia, and we were. And you see, Monica, that's when, you know, the IFBB. I never paid for an airline ticket. I never paid for a hotel room ever. Not in all my shows did I ever.
Wow.
And they'd send me guest posing. I never bought an airline ticket. I never bought a hotel room. Nothing. They treated us very, very well.
Right.
And we were sitting next to each other on the way back. So that would be the most valuable memory, because I get a friendship like that. And Monica shared her chocolates with me.
So here's a fun story, and then I want to see the routine from 95. So Joanne and I were both at Gold's Gym, and we both were using the same choreographer for our routines. Of course, I'm doing fitness and she's doing bodybuilding.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and our choreographer was this amazing, like 4'11" little Italian dancer. She was amazing dancer.
Amazing.
Just so much energy and so great. Like she could do, you know, all the twirls and flips. She was like
𝗬𝗫𝘂𝘂𝗯𝗲. She's amazing.
Yeah. So I had met her when I moved out. And anyways, so Joanne and I were both prepping for the Olympia, and I would come in after Joanne would work with Lisa, or she'd come in after I would work with Lisa somehow. And it was always that thing like, hey, but there was no like connection time to sit and talk, because, you know, I was either off to my thing or she was off to her thing. We just in passing say hello or whatever. Yeah. And then after we both competed at the Olympia that particular year, which I think was 96 is what we were thinking. Our flights, like she had just said, were all booked for us. So they, the flight travel agent booked us in seats next to each other, because we were both flying in and out of LA. Yeah. So on the way back from the Olympia, I was sitting by Joanne, which it's interesting to me, because on the way to Olympia, I didn't sit by you, but on the way back, we sat together. And I just remember sitting in my seat, because I was on the plane first, and I see Joanne walk in, and of course, you know, Joanne is like a brilliant physique, right? And we were talking about this earlier. They meaning the industry, tried to put this out there that Joanne was potentially the heaviest and leanest female bodybuilder. Now, she doesn't know if that's true or not, but like she has a dynamic, big, wonderful, beautiful physique. So she's getting on the plane, and I see her walking in.
She's like 5'10", right? You're 5'10".
I'm 5'8".
She appears to be
5'10".
She's got all this long blonde hair, and she's got these. I think they were white tights, and they had little holes all along the side of them.
The cuts on the side, I think they're black.
Right, and I think I'm sitting in the window, and you're either in the middle or the aisle. I don't remember, but we
with the white tights. You're like, oh,
I know. And then we also both placed 7th that year, so we started visiting about our experience being on stage at the Olympia, and I pull out my white chocolate coconut haystacks. My girlfriend from Texas used to send them to me every time I competed, because they were my favorites when I lived in San Antonio. And so she would send me a box of them. I would take them to the show, and after on the way home, I pull them out on the plane, right? And I was like, "Would you like one?" And
oh yeah.
We sat there and shared these gourmet. I think they were these big.
They were ones.
Yeah. You're like life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get.
Connected, and then we, remained friends. And then, of course, in '98, as I was prepping for that Olympia, I was like, Joe, I need your help.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, Claudia, if you're with us, I think you are.
Start with white tights and white chocolate, and then
right. Yeah. So I want to show Joanne's 95 Olympia, and I just want to preference it's your routine at the 95 Olympia, and you were talking about having to go on after 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝗁𝗲𝗯𝗲.
Twice I had to go on after 𝗬𝗂𝘂𝗂𝗁𝗲𝗍. It was like you pulled the number out the hat. I'm like, really? Again? Okay.
Awesome. So Claudia, if you have that video ready to go, it'd be fun to see the routine there. Yeah.
See if I can remember the routine.
Dance. I'm not an acrobat, but I like something that
but the 80s hair in the 90s. Look at that.
You look beautiful.
Great beat, this music. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's me. The main thing about the routine is it's going to.
I love your hair.
This routine is
so cute.
A lot of fun,
so,
and I enjoy doing it.
You are very nice.
So
such a beautiful blonde.
I'm pleased with it.
It's so pretty.
Look at those bangs.
I know, those are some bangs. You're nailing the bangs, that's for sure.
Yeah, sprinter butt and thighs.
Yep, I know that kind of butt.
Oh my goodness, Joanne, it was
salt and pepper, right?
Is what'd you say?
Salt and
Salt and pepper, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Salt and pepper, this song?
I think it was, yeah.
I don't know.
You gotta look that up. It's worth a Google.
Joanne, was the posing easy for you to learn?
No, with Lisa. Lisa was amazing. I mean, at the end of it, I'd have a routine. Like, I don't even know how I did that. But she would break it down into such little bits.
Yes.
And then you just put them together. So it takes it was 12 weeks to get a routine or something like that, you know?
Well, you've got to be able to make it artistic and hit the poses. So, the movements can't really be too fast because you have to, in bodybuilding, you have to show that X-frame shape in every angle.
Yeah.
That's the challenge. People focus too much on the dance and they don't get the poses down,
Right.
It is crazy that this was bodybuilding. I mean,
it's beautiful.
That girl couldn't get on stage in physique now, I don't think,
That would win any, probably physique or figure contest. Sometimes can't tell the difference.
But I like that. I like that look.
That's a beautiful look.
Do you remember, Joanne, how heavy you were here?
So when they said I was the heaviest lady to get on the Olympia stage, I was standing, so they said that at a press conference, the Olympia press conference, and I was like, well, that's interesting because I don't know how much I weigh, so I don't know how you know how much I weigh because I don't know how much so I only ever went off body fat. Even as an amateur, I knew I was a heavyweight because I was over 140.
Okay.
So I just went by body fat. I never weighed myself. So when they said that, I'm like, okay, but I don't even know.
Yeah, that physique would win any figure or physique show today.
Oh, I don't know. The girls are pretty. The sport has definitely changed, progressed, morphed. All the new categories, which when the new categories first came out, I was like, oh wow, this is going to be, bikini. What's bikini going to? And then but look what it's turned into. These girls are phenomenal. I mean, every class, they're phenomenal.
Oh, just stunning. I know. It's insane.
And then wellness girls, I'm like,
it's a look. I know.
It's a look.
It's like there's something for everyone, I mean, it used to be if you didn't have an X-frame shape, you didn't really have a chance in the sport.
That's right.
Now, if you're taller and you're more narrow, you could do bikini. If you have a really developed lower body but not an upper body, you could do wellness. It's like there's something for everyone.
Yeah, it's
So Joanne, with I'm looking at our time, trying to be thoughtful of all of us because I know Wendy can visit with our guest for hours. We always have great stuff to talk about, but I want to be respectful of your time too because I know you're traveling tomorrow to go home for Christmas. Yoo-hoo!
Yes,
finally get to go home.
Wish me luck.
Yeah, so maybe let's just chat a little bit about what was the pivotal moment you decided to retire from the bodybuilding stage and take your career into the next chapter.
The honest answer?
Yeah.
The honest answer? Very next year, 96. I was contracted to do the '96 Olympia, and I did it. And I stood on stage, and this isn't putting anybody down at all. And I stood on stage, and I looked each way, and I was like, I don't want to look like anybody in this stage, and I don't really want to look like me. I was bigger in '96. I didn't like it. But that seemed to be what they wanted. So it was a very easy decision for me. I remember coming off stage, and I said to Mike Christian, I think I'm done. He's like, no. I said, no, I think I'm done. And it was very easy for me to I was ready. I was just very ready. And I know a lot of girls have a hard time not stopping competing, and then your body changes and you're not in competition. And I know a lot of girls have a lot of trouble transitioning away from competing.
Yeah.
For me, it was perfect. I was very ready to stop. Like, I never stopped training, but I was very ready to stop competing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Some women really struggle with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
after like what they think that they need to have rather than what they truly want in themselves. It's hard to do that. Yeah.
Well, then I got into the nutrition. So I really started going into nutrition, really started getting into it probably 2 years before I retired. So probably around 90, maybe like 96, 95, something like this. And then the other thing, I was like, I'm doing this all wrong. I've been doing this all wrong, So then I really got into that. I was working with Billy Smith, who said he passed this year. Oh my gosh! But he taught me so much about nutrition. And then I met Mark McDonald, and then I was just reading and writing notes, and I just got so into that. Training people, had a great training business, as you know, and so back then my training business was probably 80%, and my nutrition became 20% of my business. And now it's probably the other way around. I do a lot more nutrition, and I love coaching. It's just fascinating. You just go down the rabbit hole and connect the dots, and people struggle so much with it. And so there's one thing, writing diets and things, but I love to coach. Monica knows this. I like to coach. Like, my whole thing is, by the end of it, you shouldn't need me. Oh, look at that picture. Do you see that picture?
Yeah. I think Claudia's got some couple fun things to bring in.
Look at that.
There's you kicking my butt.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have it.
Guys, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
3 more reps.
That's funny. That's so
yeah. Hey, Claudia, if you have access to the little video I sent you on WhatsApp to bring in, that'd be fun to show, because that's it was that clip from the video, and it's on my Instagram piece, so it might be fun to kind of throw that in some point. But back in the day, let's see. No.
That was
I think oh, there we are.
Here we go.
The
Am I holding your neck?
preparation that Monica has for the Olympia.
Wait, that's a good
the
exercise. I need to do that.
The gymnastics is a huge part, and with the gymnastics comes a lot of overuse
There you are, holding
injuries.
my
Yeah, I'm holding your neck.
Oh, there you are, holding her neck.
With Monica, we had wrist problems.
Oh, it looks like you
Constant
tried to do a
problems,
modification to get her last
the
apply because of
pushing
her sore neck,
of
but
the
I'm looking at
gymnastics
that
is
going, that
all
looks like a good idea.
one-sided, so
Oh,
I
no,
can
that
get
one, when you
that
lean
one.
back on the
and then
hold on,
so
hold on.
then we've got to try and train with that, and then also she has to take care of that. So I'm sure she had to have a lot of work done, a lot of body work done for her neck, shoulders,
There's the little
wrists.
short ones.
She had to work around a lot of injuries.
So one of the things that Joanne was also a massage therapist.
Oh,
For a second. Yeah.
what didn't you do?
Well, I did that till I realized how hard work that was. I thought, well, this will complement the training. It's really hard. So I stopped that very, very quickly.
And then I think
that would be a lot. That would be a lot.
further in that video is Joanne, you're working with me, and we don't need to bring that up right now, but it was just fun to remember all of the time posing in the little room there at Gold's Gym, the old original room, right? It was down on that first floor.
The posing room. But we also remember, I used to make you pose in between sets.
Yeah.
So make you literally 10 toes in between sets. Yeah.
Oh,
remember how bad that posing room used to smell? Remember how that posing room used to stink? I mean, you're going
just
to
a really a fun fact about that, Joanne, is that is what I use to teach myself how to pose for my first show.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I won the overall, and that's all I had to go off of. There wasn't videos on YouTube in 2008. I used that to help me
Wow.
coach. I just
And the
coached myself
easier you make
posing
it look,
using
Oh.
this. Yeah.
the more you've worked at it. So when those girls are up there and they look so
Thank
at
you,
ease and
Joanne.
very confident,
Look
we've
at-
done a lot of work
Taught
to
me
make it look
too.
that easy. So basically, we would go in there and we'd hold those
Gosh,
poses.
it's like
and
yesterday
hold
when I
them
see
for-
this, Monica.
We'd start off holding them for
I
10
know.
seconds, then
That's
20,
awesome.
then 30, then a minute. And then just
And I
tuning
remember
them,
you
moving
talking
your feet
about,
around,
how
moving the
hard it is to
shoulders,
hold the
just to get it
pose.
absolutely
And I would
perfect.
like practice
And
holding
to make
it
sure that you
forever
can do
and,
it, hit the right position
conditioning
every
myself.
time.
I didn't have anyone teaching me this stuff. I was just like, okay, that makes sense.
And this
Isn't
was
that
always after we worked out.
Yeah.
So it was always you're exhausted, get in there and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's good. You're already fatigued, so then trying to condition yourself.
So I always knew Monica when she was getting tired because the fingers would start to go.
The fingers would
She's like, and then the fingers would start doing this, like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it was me trying to distract myself from whatever I
I
was
love,
doing.
okay, this is funny because I have to say, when you're in line and you're watching the girls do their poses, like let's say it's not a call that you're in, and you see the faces that women make when they're doing a back shot because no one can see them.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They're like painstaking look on the face when the back pose is being hit.
Cramp.
Yeah, you used to get that a lot as well.
Oh, fun stuff. Fun memories. Fun memories.
Crazy.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a little quick break here, and when we come back, I want to talk about the 25 years of, how do you word it? 25 years of keeping people's waistlines down, or
25 years of saving waistlines. That's right.
saving waistlines. That's it.
Saving waistlines for 25 years. That's my little motto.
me.
And we're gonna talk about this as well. Joanne, great stuff. Okay, so don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back with the Monica Brant Show. Hi everyone, Monica here. Just wanted to thank you so much for watching the Monica Brant Show, and don't forget to subscribe, like, share these videos, and oh yeah, and that little bell notification, don't forget to click that so you'll get more great content every time there's a show uploaded or a video or anything else. So you guys, thank you so much for your support, and as always, stay fit and love life.